Yeah, well, I think I won't do the slides and I won't do camera. You'll just have my dulcet tones. So I don't want to risk it again. But actually, that was a brilliant intro because what I'm going to talk about is what Glenn just mentioned, which is our shared understanding, a circular economy in the built environment. And I'm actually really pleased to follow on from Ali. Actually, I think these complement each other really well. Because what I want to talk about is, we always say that digital and data is an enabler, and we always say that digital twins are just an enabler. And many of us on this call have been talking about, a national digital twin. And I think Ali's already kind of pointed it out. That won't be one big digital twin, that will be an ecosystem of digital twins that are interoperable and can speak to each other when needed. And we're always saying they're enablers. And so what I want to talk about and what I think Ali was just brilliantly talking about is, what do they enable? And in the same way that what Ali was talking about is absolutely critical, I want to take it maybe even a notch higher, if that's possible, to our very existence, to our. So if I want to talk about the fact that this planet is the only one that we're aware of in the universe that has life, for a start, and also the fact that the man-made biomass now exceeds the natural biomass. So we all know that there's these issues, and we believe very strongly that one of the key things that we could do to help with this, to ensure our survival and the survival of the planet, is to transition to a circular economy. And for me, things like connected digital twins, they are the things that will enable that. And so it shows you just how critical the connected digital twins are, because we won't be able to do things like transition to a circular economy without them. And yet we might not survive if we don't transition to the circular economy. So that's what I want to talk about this morning. And as Glenn said, we actually have the launch event on the 1st of June. So what I'm not going to do is to talk you through our shared understanding. But what I wanted to do was talk you through the process that we've been through, because the process has been just as important as the actual sort of launch will be. And hopefully to encourage you to come to the launch, but actually it's more to encourage you to get involved. So many again of you on this call will be aware that we published about 2 years ago something called Our Vision for the Built Environment. And that was, we brought the built environment together. So in the UK, there is no body for the built environment. There are bodies for construction, there are bodies for infrastructure, there are bodies for buildings, there's bodies for engineering, for digital, for insurers, for finances. There's no one body for the whole of the built environment. So during COVID, we got all the bodies together, and we went through a very similar process to our shared understanding. And the point of our vision was that it's all of ours. So it wasn't that a small group of people got together and said, this is the vision and we'd like to impose it on everyone and we hope you agree. We tried to get input and consultation from as wide a number of organisations and people as possible. And the vision is that the explicit purpose of the built environment is to enable people and nature to flourish together for generations. So, in the same way as we were saying about, what do the digital twins enable, when we then looked at that and said, well, how can we achieve that vision? What are the steps to achieving that vision? And a key concept that comes through is that we cannot carry on with the current economic models, business models, procurement models, finance models. They won't get us to where we want to be with like our net zero targets, with our biodiversity targets, and what Ali was just talking about, what I might call social equity targets. We can't carry on doing things the way that we're doing them. And all of those global systemic challenges, the ones I just mentioned there, like reaching net zero, resilience, reducing biodiversity loss, they're all interconnected and they all help each other. So if you, reduce carbon, usually it probably means you've increased biodiversity and vice versa. But the thing about circular economy is that it's a massive enabler. It feels like it enables all of them, and it's a really big step. Um, and so what we did was we, this time, rather than necessarily bringing together everyone across the built environment, which we did because it's the same people from our vision, but we also brought together all the people from the circular economy world. And what we find a little bit is, and some of you may recognize this, that in your organization you might have a circular economy person or a team, and it's their job to do things. So if you mention circular economy, someone will say, "Oh yes, that's so and so." It's probably not necessarily something that's on the board's agenda. And so what we were trying to do here is make circular economy mainstream and make it part of the board discussion. And we were trying to get the work that the circular economy experts are doing and make that central to sort of the built environment work that's going on. And what we saw was that with the circular economy people, there's a large focus on materials and products. And it's about multiple use of those. It's the fact that they all have multiple life cycles. And so you want to get the maximum use. And that means not just recycling, that means keeping them at their maximum use for the most amount of time. So their highest value. And then on the right hand side, in say our vision for the built environment, we have assets and systems, and they last for hundreds, sometimes thousands of years. And so there, where we're talking about use, we're saying we should get the best use out of the things that have already been built and out of the whole life cycle and look at it from a systems approach. So what we've done with this is to bring those two together and say, so what does it look like to have the built environment at the center of the circular economy? So taking things like Ellen MacArthur Foundation butterfly diagram and taking things like Kate Raworth's donuts or the donut even, or the planetary boundaries. So what does all of this have to do with digital twins, and why am I here today? Why are they a key enabler? It's because you can imagine that in order for all of this to work, we need to know all the materials and products that are available. So what's making up our assets? And then we don't just need to know that, we need to know what is their condition. Because if we want to be able to use that somewhere else, or if we want to continue using it, so we want to know it's good enough to carry on using, we don't need to replace it yet, then we need to know the condition of it. And then if we know those two things, then we also want to sort of have what we refer to as stocks and flows. So we want to know how is that going to flow to where it needs to get to. And new business models will arise. There are some already arising, but there will be even more business models arising. And all of these things you can see need data, and they need data that's keeping up to date. And I'm not going to say up to the minute date, but the amount of time that's required. So when we need that information. And so you can see that having connected digital twins will accelerate the transition to a circular economy. And you can also see that why it's so critical that we need it for what's already been built and not just for the new things that are going to be built. So with that, I hope that I've whetted your appetite. I'm not even sure if I've given the link to John, so I'm not sure if the link's not in the chat, I will put the link in the chat. But we will actually, at the event, we will be going into, why is it so important? And why circular economy and why built environment? What do we mean by it? So I've talked a lot about circular economy, but what do we actually mean? And it's a definition that will work at board level and that will work for built environment people. And then we'll be looking at the some of the how. And with that, I'll hand back to you, Simon, and apologise again for the IT issues.
No problem at all.